ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः. The nectar of thy words revives the scorched spirit of human beings. They purify the sinner and are the life of the holy. To hear them itself is auspicious. They are the real givers who spread thy name far and wide. Oh. Welcome to the Friday scripture class, and today's scripture is the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And today's chapter is Rules for Householders and Monks. We are continuing this topic. The conversation here recorded are from March 23, 1884. So we're towards the end of that day's conversation. Page 413, towards the end of that page. Adhar came to Sri Ramakrishna and let us read from that portion, it'll be good. So let us read that one, almost in the middle of the page. Adhar entered the room, saluted the master, and sat by Yam's side. He had not come for the past few days. We know that Adhar was a deputy magistrate, very high, big official, and very learned person, great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. In spite of his high position and his busy schedule, whenever he got time, he would visit Sri Ramakrishna. He had that close affinity and attraction for Sri Ramakrishna. Master, hello. Why haven't you come all these days? Adhar, sir, I have been busy with so many things. I had to attend to a conference of the school committee and various other meetings. Master, so you completely lost yourself in schools and meetings and forgot everything else? Other, everything else was hidden away in a corner of my mind. How is your arm? So, how this he was busy in his duties and worldly responsibilities. That's what he says. And Sri Ramakrishna doesn't approve this, forgetting God for the sake of the world. At least God should be always remembered, and the duties of the world should be performed remembering God. God should not be forgotten. Age Ishwar Pare Sab. First God and then everything else. That is Sri Ramakrishna saying. So seeing Yam, he is one of his favorite devotee, not visiting him and saying that I had forgotten everything else, that God was has gone hidden in the corner of my mind, and the duties became more prominent. Sri Ramakrishna was naturally not pleased. So he said that, and after saying that, he tried to change the topic, and he was really concerned for master. The other was concerned for the master, and he says, "How is your arm?" Sri Ramakrishna's arm was injured, injured, and he was suffering from that. He was asking about arm. Master, just look, it is not yet healed. I have been taking medicine prescribed by Pratap. Dr. Pratap had given some medicine, and he had some flint tied to it. But it was still in pain and it was not healed. That's what he says. And like a small boy, he used to complain about injured arm and pain in the arm. So he said, "I'm taking the medicine, but still pain is there. It's not yet healed." After a time, the master suddenly said to Adhar, "Look here, all these are unreal. Meetings, school, office, and everything else. God alone is the substance, and all else is illusory. One should worship God with one's whole mind. That is for devotee. Whole mind should be in God, and little should be given for the worldly things, which, if our mind is kept wholly on God, the little portion of mind that is given for the worldly things will perform all the work. The mind becomes very powerful. Mind steeped in thoughts of God becomes so powerful. A little portion utilized in the work is enough to do the work very nicely, the worldly works. So that's what he said. Ishwari Vastu Arshav Avastu. The God alone is the substance, and the world and everything else is non substance. That was his saying. Ishwari Vastu. Vastu means substance, the real stuff, the real thing. Avastu is unreal, changing, seeming like this and going away. Like those is avastu. Don't focus on that which is non substantial. Focus on the substance, the real stuff that we need. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna reminds other after he when he said I was busy in schools and meetings. That Sri Ramakrishna said it's fine to attend the meetings and schools, fine, but not by forgetting God. Perform your duties towards God, remember God, and you can work. You can then you work for the world. Worldly work will be carried over by even a little mind, but the major portion of your mind should be given to God. God should be given. He says the whole God. One should worship God with one's whole mind. So when whole mind is given to God, then God takes our responsibility, takes responsibility of our works and duties, and makes us do in a much better way and in much quickly the work that is needed to do. He won't just make us forgetful of the work and like that. Whatever is to be done in the work will be done better if we can give our mind fully to God. Jesus also said, love thy God, love thy Lord, the God thy Lord, with all thy mind and with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy strength. So be focused. It is always the world attracts. Duties seem to be something that we give often. Oh, it is my duty. I cannot do. I have responsibility towards my children or towards my parents or towards my office. I cannot just ignore those and just go to temple and repeat name and spend time in meditation. So that is not the case. That it generally doesn't happen. If you meditate on God, if you think of God, still so much time will be left that you can attend to your worldly duties very, very well. So that just gives the excuse of not remembering God, that I need to perform my worldly responsibilities. That's what Sri Ramakrishna here says. Ishwari Vastu Arshava Vastu. God alone is the substance, substance S with capital, and all else is illusory. Others sat without speaking a word. So, nothing to answer. He knows, other knows this. Master, all else is illusory. This moment the body is, and the next moment it is not. One must make haste to worship God. So, about the transitoriness of our life. If we put worship of God or thinking of God for when we grow old or later time, when we get retired, after that we will do. When we are in leisure, when our children are grown up, and we will do then. Children grow up, then they take up a job, and then they get married, they get grandchildren. Now grandchildren are growing. Now you have responsibility towards grandchildren. So this responsibility for the world will never go. It will never go. In Hindi, there is a nice, very beautiful couplet is there. जिंदगी जब तक रहेगी फुर्सत न होगी काम से कुछ समय ऐसा निकालो प्रेम कर लो श्री राम से. So as long as this life lasts, you will not be free from the work, duties, all will be there. But try to find time in between your responsibilities in worldly duties, that you can love God, you can call on God, you can worship God, you can meditate on God, you can repeat the name of God. You have to find time, you have to make time. That's what Sri Ramakrishna very seriously he said to other, that life is short. Other died very young, you know that. And he said to other, this body is today it is there, tomorrow it is not. When will you do? So do it all with seriousness about worshipping God. One must make haste to worship God. So that is more urgent. Other things will come up. But you don't have to renounce everything. Live in the world the way the tortoise does. The tortoise roams about in the water but keeps its eggs on land. Its whole mind is on the eggs. So, this tortoise and turtle both are in Bengali called kachap. Kachap, term for both. So, no distinction is made between turtle and tortoise. Turtles are the one who live in water, and but they lay their eggs on the bank in the sand. They make some holes, and in that holes they lay their eggs. So they live in water, but their mind remains on the eggs from which will hatch one day, and from that the little tortoise or turtles will come out. So their affection, natural attraction for these eggs, they should be protected. They should remain by the law made by God. How the mothers protect and are concerned for the children, for offsprings, and by that law they think of the eggs. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna says. So we are like that. Be in the world, perform worldly duties, but like be those turtles that have they live in water, but their mind is on the land where they have laid eggs. So like that, be in the world, perform your duty, but don't forget God. Put your mind upon God. So that is what a seeker of God, seeker of spiritual illumination, should train their life in that way. And in another place, he says, be like a maid servant in a rich person's house who has her home in the village, but she lives in the house and terms everything of the house as my own. This my house has become dirty. I have to clean. Oh, there are so many guests coming today. Oh, this my even to the son of her master, she would say, "Oh, my Hari is sick." So her Hari means master's son, as if she treats as if it is her son, her family, her mother, her house, her guests, but knows fully that her house is a little cottage in her village and her son is there, she is growing. She does that way, but knows that what her real thing is. Like that, one should live in the world. Treat everyone dearly, making them feel that how much you love them, but know for certain that it is all given by God. For your, like it is a job that we do, like a maid servant doing. But we have our own people, that is God. So think of God as your own. Don't feel that connection that you should develop with God. Don't develop that connection or attachment with the world. Have a relationship, all that. And he says, know and make everyone feel that how much you care for them, but know for certain they do not belong to you and you do not belong to them. You belong to God and they all belong to God. So don't be attached to them, and be always aware, be always of that thought that they all belong to God. No one is mine. It's all God has given me. I came alone to this world, and God gave me this, that, gave me my parents, gave me my siblings, then gave me my friends in the school, then gave me my colleagues, then later on gave me my husband or wife, my spouse, and they gave me my children. Those are all God gave me one after another thing. I came alone, but my connection is with the God, and God made me all this web of things, and I get connected to everything. Get connected, enjoy everything, serve everyone, but know for certain that no one belongs to you and you do not belong to them. You belong to God, and all those people whom you think they are your own people, they all belong to God. It's all God's world. It is not our world, and God will take care. Think of God as your very own. First, God, me and my God. Then comes me and my other relations, and me and my other duties. Like that, God has to be our closest being. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is beautiful saying, the example of turtle, um, living in one place in one way, but thinking of something else as most dear, living in the world with all, loving them, no doubt, but attachment, if it has to be only with God, attachment to none, only to one, that is God. So loving attachment to God, and with all other loving detachment. We can love and yet detached. So that's how one should live in the world. Now, Sri Ramakrishna changes the topic and talks about captain. What a nice state of mind captain has developed. He looks like a rishi when he is seated to perform worship. This captain was an officer from the government of Nepal, and he was very devoted. He had high regards for Sri Ramakrishna. He used to say that people of Bengal do not know your worth. You are so valuable thing. You are so valuable that you should be like a small glass toys that should be kept in cotton, covered by cotton, soft cotton, so that they are it is not injured, it is not harmed, it is not broken. Like that is your life and thought. You are so precious, so beautiful, and people don't know your value, your worth, and they treat you like any other devotee. You are not that. That much of insight this captain had, and could recognize Sri Ramakrishna as very high soul, very so different from normal devotees. So captain had many association with many sadhus, and he was very religious by that thing. Sri Ramakrishna admired him very much. And what it says, when he seated to perform worship, he looked like a rishi. How Sri Ramakrishna had the great power of observance. He used to observe the people, how they do. And the posture, the way he was doing, and how he was thinking, all Sri Ramakrishna liked it very much. And that's why he's praising captain who was not there. He was just saying to the devotees, inspiring them how to get connected with God. Example, he said you should be connected with God all the time, because God is your one's own, and the world is something to live on and to survive is the world. But your real connection should be with God. So then he says how captain is so delighted to connected to God. When he looks like a rishi when he's seated to perform worship. He performs the arati with lighted camphor and recites beautiful hymns. Or ritualistic worship he's doing, but with full intention, full focus. So Sri Ramakrishna admires that way. When he rises from his seat after finishing the worship, his eyes are swollen from emotion, as if bitten by ants. Besides, he always devotes himself to the study of the sacred books such as the Gita and the Bhagavata. I think he brings the story of this captain to these devotees here, because captain held a very high position of the government of Nepal and was dealing with the government of British India at that time. And such responsible work representing the government of Nepal in India, in Kolkata, that erstwhile that time it was capital. And yet he was so devoted when he worshipped with so much devotion, and he spent his time in leisure time in reading Bhagavatam and the Gita. And he worshipped after he finished. His eyes used to be swollen as if beaten by ants. So how much with sincerity and with deep intention he used to worship God. It was not like just mechanical worshipping arati and chanting the hymns. It was very done very sincerely and internally. He used to get connected with the deity while performing ritualistic worship. And that's what I think Sri Ramakrishna inspires, that you do work, you are also a busy person, but I have seen one of the very most important work that person used to do, and yet he had the time to read Gita and Bhagavatam and time to worship God with so much of intensity. And he looked like a rishi when he worshipped God. And then he makes little this thing. Such a Bhagavad Gita. Once I used one or two English words before him, and that made him angry. He said, English educated people are profane. So, like that, they are very worldly. That's what he said. Somehow he is very orthodox Hindu, and Sri Ramakrishna talking with Keshav Sen also he didn't like, because Keshav Sen used to meet with Britishers and all that. He went and meet with Queen Victoria, and like that he said, why should you be try to glorify yourself by your connection with the Britishers? Your religion, your culture itself is so great. So that was his thing. And he once said to Sri Ramakrishna, why you go and meet with Keshav? He mixes more with the Britishers. So Sri Ramakrishna said, what are you saying? Now you have started dictating to Sri Ramakrishna that you should not meet Keshav. Sri Ramakrishna says, I meet Keshav because he is a real devotee of God. You don't know that. That captain only saw, his name was Vishwanath Upadhyay. He only saw what Keshav mixes with the British people. He sits with them. And he didn't see his inner urge for God or devotion, that he could not estimate that one for captain. That's why he was criticizing um, him. And then he said, Sri Ramakrishna, then he said, then he said, why you meet with him, Keshav Sen? He is with Britishers. And he said, then Sri Ramakrishna said, you go and meet with the Viceroy and other officers. You yourself go and meet with the Christians, with the Britishers, with the Christian English people. What about that? You only criticize Keshav Sen for meeting Europeans and Christians, and you yourself do that. What about that? So captain had no answer for that. So like that, he was very orthodox Hindu, and he admired, loved with Sri Ramakrishna. Until end, he was with Sri Ramakrishna. When Sri Ramakrishna passed away, he found he Mahasamadhi attained. Then he came as soon as he heard and came, and seeing Sri Ramakrishna, he said, it is samadhi, it is not death. Rub some ghee on his chest, he may come back. So they started rubbing like that. So that was his love for Sri Ramakrishna. Always he was connected. And Sri Ramakrishna also admired. Sometimes he invited Sri Ramakrishna to his home and had entertained him with food and other things. And that's why he brought, I think, Captain to say he is such a busy person, but yet he has time to read the scriptures, worship God, and become connected with God through the process of worship, ritualistic worship, and the scriptural study. After a while, others said humbly to the master, Sir, you haven't been to our place for a long time. The drawing room smells worldly, and everything else appears to be steeped in darkness. Other was such a great devotee. He was also great, very high deputy magistrate was the highest position an Indian could get that time. That was the high position that other saint was. And he said, Sri Ramakrishna, he said, you have not come to our house. It smells astegondo, like that he said in Bengali. It smells of smells worldly, something. He gave the example of fishy smell, something. There was nothing smell, but feel the absence that you have not visited our place. So please come to him with all the and everything else appears to be steeped in darkness. So I miss your visit, and the joy that you create by visiting our house. And when you are there, and that joy lingers when after you leave for many days, and when you have not come, it's all gloomy and darkness. It feels like inviting Sri Ramakrishna again to his house, remembering the joy that he experienced by Sri Ramakrishna's presence. To see the real joy of Sri Ramakrishna visit, you have to read that story of when Sri Ramakrishna visited Brahmani and her expression. That is so wonderful. In the gospel, it is there. See, when he goes to Brahmani, the joy, she said, I am so much joyful that you have come to me, that I never felt this joy, even when my daughter was getting married to a very rich person, and so many rich sepoy and all guards came to with her. I never felt even that joy when you have come to me. I feel so much joy. So this is the joy that Sri Ramakrishna used to bring, and that beautifully he expressed the absence Sri Ramakrishna not going there. Sri Ramakrishna was very pleased with the others' expression of the Sri Ramakrishna not visiting. The master was deeply touched by these words of his devotee. He suddenly stood up and blessed him and other in an ecstatic mood, touching their heads and hearts. In a voice choked with love, the master said, I look upon you as Narayana himself. You are indeed my own. They were sitting together. This he says one devotee was stroking the feet of Sri Ramakrishna. That devotee was M himself, sitting on the corner of the couch where Sri Ramakrishna was resting. One devotee was stroking Sri Ramakrishna's feet. That was he himself. He didn't say the name. And here, because they were together, others said near him. It might be after that they sat down, but they're sitting, and he touched the head of both and heart and said that I look upon you as Narayana himself and God himself in an ecstatic mood. A great blessing he gave. And by Sri Ramakrishna's touch, deep spiritual experience people had. Swami Vivekananda he saw Advaitic experience. Nothing of that is explained here, but they must have some very deep feeling. He didn't write about himself, what was his emotional feeling, but he said Sri Ramakrishna was choked with emotion, and then he said, I look upon you as Narayana himself. And he said that you are indeed my own. Mahima Charan entered the room. Master to Mahima, what I said about aspirants practicing continence is true. Without chastity, one cannot assimilate these teachings. So he emphasizes the need of chastity for a devotee of God. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna, that brahmacharya, importance of brahmacharya for spiritual realization and for understanding the teachings of intricate teachings of the scriptures. You will not even be able to understand that if you do not practice chastity and continence. So he brings that issue. I think he had some talk with Mahima, or he felt that Mahima needs to practice chastity, so that he was emphasizing to him. Sri Ramakrishna was always for helping, pushing all the devotees upwards. So that was his thing. Once a man said to Chaitanya, Sri Ramakrishna continues, once a man said to Chaitanya, you give the devotees so much instruction. Why don't they make much progress? Chaitanya said, they dissipate their powers in the company of women. That is why they cannot assimilate spiritual instruction. If one keeps water in a leaky jar, the water escapes little by little through the leak. Here he again says the woman, but what he means is the person of opposite gender. That's what he means to the Chaitanya Deva was talking with men. That's why he said that. Um, and he tries to, Sri Ramakrishna says that one should practice continence. Living at women, company of women is not any harm. But looking upon women as object, as Swami Vivekananda says, no man who thinks of woman as his wife can ever perfect be. So perfection will come if you see a woman as your wife, you cannot become perfect. So wife or husband, they are to be treated like friend, companion, but not as wife or husband in that sense, not sense of wife or husband, but as companion, as friend, as in our shastra that it says, Sahadharmini, Sahadharmi, one who is a friend in practice of spirituality, companion in practice of spirituality and help in practice of spirituality. Couple progress very fast if one looks upon other as as a person who is real, admires other person, as one who helps me in spiritual awareness, in my spirituality, in my love for God. That then is not the relationship of that husband and wife that the worldly relationship the word says. That's why Swami Vivekananda said that word. So after when you progress, every being seems a Narayana. Sri Ramakrishna says the disciples they have come and say, I look upon you as Narayana. The goal is to see our spouse as Narayana, wife sees husband as God, and husband sees wife as God, children as God, grandchildren as God. That is the goal. And that has to start from there. Adoration, admiration, and respect for each other. So not like treating like something wife or husband as the worldly in the worldly sense. That's what Sri Ramakrishna says, that when the people think of that in the company of women, and that keeps the leaky jar. So company of women means seeing the females as women, but there is the difference. The female or male can be seen as devotees of God, not as man or woman. So that is how our eyesight has to change, our thinking has to change. Seeing one, not seeing as a gender, as man or woman, rich or poor, learned or ignorant. All those are very profane, as the profane was the thing. A worldly thought when we think that way. If our mind has not reason to that level, when we can treat every human being as the human being, not as anything else, not as even man and woman, but as the human being, and finally to raise from that as the divine manifestation in the human body. So if we can think of that, then is our progress possible. And to have the spiritual progress where the goal is to see God in everything, so that is how we have to raise ourselves. That's what Sri Ramakrishna says, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that they have not reason to that level. They do not try to see in that way. So that's why need for chastity, respect for other person, not treating other as object of pleasure or enjoyment. That's what is the chastity is there. Continence is there. When that continence is practiced, then there is greater joy. They say greater joy. Sri Ramakrishna has so many places explained how much this love of God brings joy in ourselves. So much joy that any other worldly pleasure feels very insignificant. Any other worldly pleasure, it becomes insignificant compared to the Bhajanananda and Brahmananda. All these other things are Vishayananda. All other things, joy in eating something, joy in some other company of whom a person you like, and the joy in having some more money. All these are Vishayananda. That is Ananda is there. There is pleasure, no doubt. But that pleasure is very, very gross and very temporary, and it doesn't go deeper. It's very of a lower level of joy. So greater joy, subtler joy, more intenser joy is bhajanananda. When we think of God, when we find joy in the name, repeating the name of God, that is bhajanananda. That is much more intenser joy. And that joy comes when we can conquer over our Vishayananda. Then Vishayananda then doesn't matter at all what do you eat and how you do. It doesn't matter at all what you have. All they become secondary. And Sri Ramakrishna says that when you have Bhajanananda, then you raise from Rajoguna to Sattva. Rajaguna tries to feel all that, the dress, how we wear, how do I look, what type of car I drive, and how people respect. And oh, you see, I'm driving. Sometimes you drive with not putting the license silencer, and pat, and people see. This is all Rajoguni thing, and people look to car and feel happy. Oh, people are looking to my race car, all that. So this is a joy, pleasure, but this is all Vishayananda, very short lived. There's no fun in that. The real joy is Bhajanananda. when you think of God, and you try to see God in everyone, and begin from your own people, own person, one dearest person, nearest person, from your own spouse. God manifested in this form. So, and all the respect that you put, and you put like the God to that. And then where is there seeing the husband or wife? It is all divine manifestation. That's why how one can become like practice this continence or chastity. That's what it is said. Sri Ramakrishna goes to have the highest, when one has to have highest spiritual realization and joy. Then one has to go beyond such things, some ethical and this ethical and moral thing, and more than that, something maybe not non-ethical, but non-spiritual. So you go above even the what may be ethically approved, but spiritually you may have to shun that. So, and shunning something, renouncing something, worldly pleasures, is not real giving up for the real thing or real joy. It is trying to grab something higher and better by overcoming the lesser. So that is what the bhajanananda is. Bhajanananda is going beyond Vishayananda, little joy of the things, and finding greater joy in God. So Mahima and the other devotees remained silent. After a time, Mahima said, "Please pray to God for us that we may acquire the necessary strength." So, how much relying? Now, this Sri Ramakrishna saying, how much impact it already had, you see. Sri Ramakrishna said to him the thing about keeping chastity and continence. He's already on that line. He says, "Please pray that we could practice that." And Sri Ramakrishna praying is Sri Ramakrishna's blessing. Already Sri Ramakrishna saying means it is already happening. If we read the life of these all devotees that came to Sri Ramakrishna, you find lot of changes coming later on. Girish Ghosh can change so much. Your Kalipada Ghosh can change so much. So all these people must be there. They will have all the practice of thought of more of God, and they could practice whatever Sri Ramakrishna wanted them to do. If they do not do, there will be no spiritual progress. Like the leaky jar, all water will come out through the leaks. Master, be on your guard even now. It is difficult, no doubt, to check the torrent in the rainy season, but a great deal of water has gone out. If you build the embankment now, it will stand. So he says there is time. You can do. You can do. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying is. You may feel it is difficult, but you can do whatever is needed to have spiritual evolution. You can do all sacrifice. You can have control over yourself. That's what Vedanta says beautifully. That Sarve Veda Upadikatopanishad. Sarve Veda Yat Padam Amananti Tapagumsi Sarvani Chayad Vadanti. Yadichanto Brahmacharyam Charanti Tatte Padam Sangrahena Pravakshe Om Iti Etat. What the glory of all Vedas sing, yat padam, sarve Veda, yat padam amananti. All the Vedas sing the glory of that being, that state. Sarve tapagumsi sarvani cha yad vadanti. And all they say that by practice, by concentration, by austerity, you can get. And people practice that austerity to get that in such a high state of spiritual bliss that people don't mind practicing austerity and self-control. That state can be attained. Yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti. Now, desiring that state of realization of God or Brahma Jnana, people are ready to practice continence. So that it says, Yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti, full control over their mind and senses. And just they want that to experience that inside. And that state, I tell you, what is that state? What is that padam? So it says, Om iti etat. That is termed as Om. Om is the Brahma, Tasya Vachaka Pranava. Om is the name of Brahman. Brahman is designated by the name, by Om sound. So Brahman has no name. Brahman literally means vast, infinite. That is what the very word Brahman means. But Brahman is represented by the word Om, sound Om. And that Om, to achieve that Om, people are ready to sacrifice anything, to practice austerity, to practice concentration, and to practice self control without any deviation, full focused self control. So that is what the Brahmacharya means. The literal meaning of Brahmacharya, though its other meaning is continence or chastity or celibacy, but real meaning is living in Brahman. Brahmacharati yasa brahmacharya. So when you dwell in Brahman, you are already in the thought of Brahman. You have transcended the thought of body identification. You are no more a body. You are already living in Brahman. So the body that draws you for the enjoyment and attraction of the world, that has lost its power, and you started living in Brahman. Or Brahmacharya is the practice by which you can remain and dwell in the Brahman. So that's why it's called Brahmacharya. In English, it is translated as chastity or continence mostly. We go to next chapter, chapter 21, page 415. Uh, the topic that M gave to this conversation is a day at Dakshineshwar. So Saturday, April 5, 1884. The previous was on Sunday, March 23, 1884. After that, about 2 weeks, after 2 weeks, he comes again to Sri Ramakrishna. That's very interesting story how Sri M came to this. He was very afraid of going by boat. So this is there. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning when M arrived at the temple. So early morning from Kolkata temple garden, and found Sri Ramakrishna seated on the small couch in his room. A few devotees were sitting on the floor. The master was talking to them. Pran Krishna Mukherjee was there. Pran Krishna jokingly they used to call fat Brahmin, Mota Brahmin. He was quite fat, but he was quite wealthy. Pran Krishna belonged to an aristocratic family and lived in the northern part of Calcutta. He held a high post in an English business firm. He was very much devoted to Sri Ramakrishna, and though a householder, derived great pleasure from the study of Vedanta philosophy. He was a frequent visitor at the temple garden. Once he invited the master to his house in Calcutta and held a religious festival. Every day, early in the morning, he bathed in the holy water of the Ganges. Whenever it was convenient, he would come to Dakshineswar in a hired country boat. So that is introduction about Pran Krishna M gives. That morning, that is this morning of April 5, 1884, that morning he had hired a boat and invited M to accompany him to Dakshineswar. The boat had hardly left shore when the river became choppy. Yam had become frightened and begged Pran Krishna to put him back on land. In spite of assurances, Yam had kept saying, "You must put me on shore. I shall walk to Dakshineswar." And so Yam came on foot and found Sri Ramakrishna talking to Pran Krishna and the others. So it's a beautiful way that how Yam describes himself as if the third person. All his weaknesses and fears he doesn't hide, and he clearly describes to the people that someone else as if. People try to hide their own weaknesses, but Yam is so transparent. So he said that person was so fearful of boat and didn't and going to waters. That morning, that's how it is. Um, Master to Pran Krishna. But there is a greater manifestation of God in man. You may ask, how is it possible for God to be incarnated as a man who suffers from hunger, thirst, and other traits of an embodied being, and perhaps also from disease and grief? The reply is, even Brahman weeps, entrapped in the snare of the five elements. So, how God can become human and all the human things and how still you call God? So this is the power of Maya. Maya that belongs to God. God Himself creates this Maya and then accepts the bondage of Maya or the rule of Maya, and then starts playing as if He is bound to Maya. They say we are all Maya Dhin. We are Adhin of Maya. We are under the domain of Maya. But God is Maya Dhis, He is Lord of Maya. Yet, when He assumes the form, He has to all follow the rules of Maya. So He undergoes all this suffering, disease, and all the things. How can that God be that? And then Sri Ramakrishna says, one Bengali saying, Panchabhuter Phade Brahma Pode Kande. Snared in five elements, even Brahman weeps. So that is what the Brahman, the supreme being, when he assumes a body, incarnation of God is the Brahman becoming embodied. So that he starts crying because he has assumed his overpowering by the five elements that constitute this universe. Shiti up Tej Marut Vyom. In that, if one gets into that, even Brahman weeps. What to say of human beings? So there is no problem. He will have Lord will have all the things that a human being has. And after all, God has to be as human being, and He has to have all the things that human beings do. Otherwise, human beings cannot connect to God. To connect to Him, he has to live as the human being, act like a common human being, suffer like a common human being. Otherwise, people will think he is God, he doesn't, nothing touches him. So when they find that Sri Ramakrishna also suffers, being God incarnate, he suffers from cancer. Then we say, oh, when we have disease, then we say, even Sri Ramakrishna suffered. Then it gives us strength. Otherwise, what is suffering from them? They are Jivan Mukta, they are God Himself. No disease can ever touch them. They are so much, they can have any time they can feel I am the Atman, I am not the body. What is disease to me? They can be aloof and keep their identity from the body off, but they will not do that all the time. And that's why, so that we can relate to Sri Ramakrishna. We feel so nice when Sri Ramakrishna behaves like a human being, like his love, his attachment, his care, like just like a human being he does. Once, where it was, he asked someone to do the same thing, and he himself was doing later on, he found feeding someone, bring something to one person. And he said he himself later on found that he was doing. So much was his love that as we have, so we feel that Sri Ramakrishna has so much love for the people. He was sick in Kashipur, and Girish Ghosh comes very summertime, and no, there was no fridge and cold water. There was water kept in a jar, earthen jar, in the corner of that room. When it is hot, everything becomes so hot in the summertime in India. So Girish Ghosh comes sweating and heated and all that. And then Swami Sri Ramakrishna said he should get some cool water. So instead of saying someone, he himself just he crawls and goes there because he cannot walk. He's so weak. Goes and tries to find that water, how cold it is for Girish goes. He puts on his hand and tries to taste and said, no, it has not become cool enough. But this is the only thing that we can give. And he asks other people to put that in a glass and give to Girish Ghosh. So this type of love for human beings when we see in God, so it inspires us to how we can also be loving. So Swami Prabodhanandaji was head of our San Francisco Center. So I went once for San Francisco for my own thing, and I'm so junior to him. He was much senior in age, spirituality, everything. And I find him standing at the airport to receive me. I said, Swamiji, why you had to travel? Their airport is so far away. And Maharaj, why did you come? If to taking so much trouble, you could have rested. You would have gone by anything. You had sent the person who will drive. No, it's fine. It is joy to meet you here. He said that, and I thought he had special this thing for me. He gave this thing because he came to Toronto. The other person said everyone said he came to receive everyone. And that is inspiring for us. We should also try to emulate that idea of receiving someone, whether junior or senior, doesn't matter. When monk comes, I go to receive. Swami Pramathananji used to go to receive even devotees. One devotee came from Kolkata, and that his story I don't know I've told you or not. He forgot his. He didn't know he come first time to Canada, so he had to change the plane in London Heathrow, and they gave only one boarding pass. And after that, he did in India, they didn't give two boarding pass that time, long back. And he didn't know he needs another boarding, nothing known. And he comes and goes to get where is your boarding pass? He showed the ticket. No, you need the boarding pass. So now plane is already flying. So he said, where to get the boarding pass? Go to the counter at the airport. Out of this thing, security was not that main thing that time. And he goes there and says, this thing, I need a boarding pass. They give. Already plane is there, already doing that. And while people already lined up because he was boarding the plane. That time he knew that he needs boarding pass. And after that, he came and asking, where is that my this number? Because first time coming, Heathrow is such a big, complicated. And then he was showing this boarding pass where to go. Finally, he showed someone left there, and he forgot to bring boarding pass. Comes running to this again, no boarding pass. Then he remembers I left somewhere. Rushes there, and the boarding pass is not there on the table. Now, how to get? That time he says, I remembered Holy Mother. Mother, so my going to Canada will not be there. You want me to go back from here to India? As soon as he remembered Holy Mother, he saw one person taking his boarding pass was walking. He was searching the person whose pass it was. He was trying to give that person. He ran there, pulled that from his hand without even saying anything. He had on the back. He just snatched that from his hand and said, oh, it is mine. I go, and then ran, thinking that his plane must have left. So much late it happened. You see, he had to go to the counter, make the boarding pass, come, then come again, and seeing, and they were asking the place. So much late it happened, and I must have my plane must have gone. He comes here, still plane had not gone. It was delayed. He remembered Holy Mother. All must be her play. And he enters into the plane, and the plane was delayed. Now here Pramathananji went to airport, and how much it delayed quite long time. And here he comes from India, now immigration, first time coming, still delay after delay. And who had gone with Swami Pramathananji, Swamiji? And there was no telephone or anything that time, no cell phone yet, not cell phone age. And they said, Swamiji, perhaps he missed the plane or didn't come from Calcutta or something. Let us go back. 2 hours Pramosanji waited for this person after plane landed. 2 hours waited, and then plane landed maybe 1 hour ago. After that also he waited. And the person said, perhaps he missed. We don't know. Otherwise, how they'll be so late? He said, let me wait. And then he received that devotee of Thakur. So that was the greatness of these monks, you see, how great it was. He brought him, found him a house to stay, and found some job, and he was a great devotee of mine. He had so much faith in Holy Mother, that person. Passed away recently. Ashish Kandilal was his name. He used to do soup kitchen. First soup kitchen started, he started doing like 21 years ago, 2023, 22 time. And he used to cook food for devotees in our celebrations. At that time, there were no like 400, 500 people, but whatever were there, 100 people. But he used to cook khichdi for everyone, sometimes nice food, and he used to put something in dal, some rice and dal. But he was the one first who used to cook for all the devotees. Unfortunately, he had cancer and he passed away, but great soul, great devotee of Mother. So this is how inspiration comes when we see things being done by the people, how wonderfully they serve, they receive, and they transcend the common, this, what you call, protocol. He did not, senior Swami, why should he go? He will ask his devotee, someone go and pick up that the devotee is coming. Just he will find something, take the board and say Vedanta Society, and he will come. Generally, that is done. But Pramathanji himself had to go and wait there, that elderly person, some 78, 80 years old, and he stood there at the airport for 2 hours and found him. So these all incidents inspire. That's how when God incarnates as human being, his all actions, his all everything to us inspires, and that's why they act exactly like a human being. How this Rama did when Sita was abducted, Rama was crying, and the Parvati said, "I think Rama is not God." To Shiva. How can he cry when his wife is abducted in this world? All is play. He's doing the play. Why should he cry? And then Shiva said, Go ahead, find, test him whether he's God or not. And she comes and Rama and comes in the form of some woman, not in the form of Parvati. And he bowed down. Parvati, please accept, mother, please accept, divine mother, please accept my pranam. But how did he recognize? Then she said, oh, he is God himself. So, like that, the story, they can do perfect acting like the human being would do. So, this is the greatness of all incarnations of God. And so, that's why Panchabhuter Phade Brahma Pode Kande. Kande means cries. Brahman also cries when he gets into the fad is the snare of Panchabhuta, five elements, snare of five elements. That is the samsara, that is the creation. And that's even Brahman cried, weeps because of that. It is so powerful. This trap is. So we are what to say of that. Even the Brahman weeps when he Brahman has to take the human form. So it is dangerous and it is difficult. So there is nothing to worry when you find difficulty in this life. Life is difficult. Life is made that way. Difficult, but God has given us power to overcome difficulty through our spiritual awareness, through our wisdom, through seeing that how so much difficulties people face. And when difficulties are given to the brave people, so that they can show the glory of their strength and bravery and come out of those difficulties without being lost, getting lost to that problems of life. Those brave people only God gives those problems in life. So those are very brave who get the problems and they can get out of the problem. So that is what is said. In Bengali, we say bipod pode pode. When every step there is some danger. Bipod pode pode. And then says upay pai pai. But there is solution every step. Pai pai means again step. Pod pod also another way to say in Bengali. Bipod pode pode. If there is danger in every step, there is solution in every step also. So we have to seek the solution. Nothing to come down. There is God with us. Kim Ghona Bijana Si Asman Ramakrishna Dasa Vayam. Don't you know that we are the servants of Sri Ramakrishna? How you try to scare off and how this natural thing they will put us down. We are the servants of Sri Ramakrishna. Don't you know that? We can overcome all the problems and difficulties of life, whatever may come, by the power of the grace and strength given by Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. Thank you very much. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Sritva Pranamami Muhur